speaking of, the VR landscape not looking good, speaking of the layoffs, speaking of games and departments being shut down, companies seem to be shifting their focus from virtual reality to artificial intelligence. We just spoke of the 10,000 layoffs at Microsoft. Microsoft is actually preparing to launch their own open AI language, tech feature into Microsoft Word, into Microsoft Outlook, into other Office apps in the next few weeks, right? So it's, hey, we've laid off 10,000 people here, but we're going to bring open AI into more of our products. So it clearly seems like they're pivoting from virtual reality, from the metaverse into artificial intelligence. Bing web searches have already began to make changes thanks to OpenAI, a company that Microsoft is, backing in a large part. And they're looking to add OpenAI and ChatGPT and all of that into more of their legacy apps, as I mentioned, like Word, Outlook, the whole Office suite. They're hoping to also launch their new Bing AI in late February, but they kind of pushed the date up a bit because they had word that, hey, Google is going to be launching something too. And it turns out last Monday, Google announced their Chat GPT rival, Bard AI. So right before Microsoft had their big, announcement, their event planned, Google swoops in and it's like, hey, look, check it. We have a Chat GPT rival, because Chat GPT has been making so many headlines, and people have been not obsessed with it, but people have been very interested in it. And Bard is actually, Google's AI, Bard, is powered by their language model, Lambda, which is something that, we've talked about in the past. Every Google I/O, they usually have some sort of demonstration of what Lambda is capable of. And Lambda, if you're wondering, stands for Language Model for Dialogue Applications. And it will have its own chatbots, sort of thing called Apprentice Bard, as well as they're bringing Bard to search. And it's supposed to be in more of like a question and answer format. So instead of just typing a question into Google and then you have a bunch of web pages listed as to, okay, this is the answer to your question, it's actually going to form a response to your question. It's going to give you an answer to your question instead of, okay, here are some websites that probably answer your question. You can try and sort through this to find out what's going on. And then another thing that they're supposed to bring to it also is it's supposed to be like an AI powered search that takes complex information, that takes a lot of different websites and a lot of different perspectives and summarizes it into like an easy to digest format. So it's not, okay, this website says one thing, this website says another thing, this website says a third thing. It's going to take all of the information it can gather and it's going to give you, a concise answer based off of all of the information out there. So companies are pivoting from VR into artificial intelligence, and Google, who's obviously, a large player in technology, they've now launched their own chat GPT, their own chatbot type service. So it definitely seems like artificial intelligence, like AI, is kind of taking all of the buzz from the metaverse. Because, last year, all companies would talk about is a metaverse. And now it seems like in 2023, all companies are talking about is AI.
Yeah. Yeah, this is a really interesting one, especially with the Microsoft situation. It feels like it's very quick, right? Obviously, Microsoft put a lot of investment into OpenAI, um, originally with $1 billion, and then they upped that up to 10 billion, uh, and have already integrated those models into Bing. And just to go over what this means here, if anyone out there isn't aware. So there's different types of searches, right? Or search. There's Google search, where you type into Google search, you say, I don't know, you type in Meta and it will give you Meta's website, and it will also give you some information on the side about, hey, this is the company. It used to be called Facebook. It was founded on this date. Blah 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 blah. If you want to read more, here's the Wikipedia article. Very useful. It's a great way to get quick information. But then there's also Google Assistant, right? And things like Siri and Amazon Alexa, where, sorry if I triggered anyone's assistance, but essentially what that is you can ask that thing a question and it will scan the internet to give you the best answer. So for example, you can ask the assistant to hey, can you tell me when Meta was founded? And it will say, hey, Meta, originally called Facebook, was founded on this day by these people, blah, 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 blah. What Bing is doing here with the OpenAI ChatGPT kind of model integrated into its search is they are letting you ask questions that don't necessarily have an answer. So, for example, one of the examples that they give here is, you know, hey, create a 3-course menu for a dinner party I'm having for 6 people today. And you type that into the Bing search engine, and it will give you an answer. There's another example of, hey, my kid, he's 8. He really likes dogs. Can you write him a poem for me? And it will do it. And it's interesting because this is taking the assistant a step further and is a huge kind of boon for something like Bing as a competitor to Google search. And I think what makes this even more powerful is that it's associated with, and I think Microsoft should play up this advertising even more than it already has, because it's not really doing much of that on its main page. When you go to Bing, you don't really see much information about ChatGPT, but there's so much enthusiasm, and to me, I'll actually say this: I feel like this enthusiasm around it is at like NFT level enthusiasm, which gets me a little bit concerned because NFTs, I mean, they still exist, but I don't know. Those kind of fizzled out really quick. But there is a lot
Yeah.
of excitement around the idea of ChatGPT. If I was Microsoft, I would have that logo everywhere on my website, just to kind of piggyback on the excitement around that right now. But yeah, it's kind of a really interesting platform for them to bring this quickly. And you're right, it comes right off the heels of them completely ditching the AR VR landscape. Like it was it's funny because AR and VR has been this slow build, very, very slow build for a lot of these companies. And I don't know if it was these companies just noticed that Meta was uh investing so much money into this that they're like, maybe there's something we're missing. Maybe we need to do this too. But when
Mhm.
they realized that Meta was probably made the wrong bet, almost like they snapped their fingers and switched over to this. And right now, if it was AR VR, Meta was on top of that and kind of setting the stage for what that was going to be. If we're talking about AI integrated into their services, right now Microsoft is on top. And I don't know when the last time you could say Microsoft was on top in any category. Uh, we talk about PCs. Yeah, they sell a lot of PCs, but anytime we talk about like computers and stuff, we talk about stuff like what Apple's doing with M1 and using uh, the ARM as a more efficient, more powerful kind of system where Microsoft is just resting on their laurels and doing what they've done for decades now. You talk about gaming. PlayStation and Nintendo are on top of that. They even make the arguments in court that, hey, we should be able to buy Activision because we're struggling compared to the other two, right? So it's just funny that this is a complete table turn, and it makes me wonder: do you think that this could significantly hurt Google search in any way? Like, do you? I don't know about you, but every computer I've ever had and every browser I ever have defaults to its. Anytime you open it up, it goes to Google. That's just the default page, start page for every web browser I use. Can you imagine a world in which Microsoft takes over through this excitement around ChatGPT and their new search that people are like, you know what? I don't need Google. I'm gonna just go to Bing, and instead of asking Google a question where it's going to give me an answer from Wikipedia, I can get a completely creative, in quotes, it's not a creative esque answer from Bing. And I don't know, there just seems to be a lot of excitement around about that right now. Do you think this is Microsoft's way to kind of take over the search landscape?
I would say it's their way to even out the landscape.
Mm,
I don't think they'll take over. I think they'll definitely take a decent market share away from Google, but I think Google will still remain on top with their traditional search, and then especially because they're launching their own chatbot rival to ChatGPT. And we talk about how fast Microsoft has moved. Google's moving fast too. They don't have a virtual reality department to lay off and then flip to, but they've been working on computational AI in the background for quite some time. As we've talked about Lambda, And kind of the idea at Google, their reason for not moving as fast into AI as, some of their rivals, some of their counterparts
Mhm.
is, as an organization, they kind of feel that they have a lot more to lose. There's a lot more reputational risk for them being wrong with chatbots as opposed to someone like Microsoft.
Yeah, that's a really good
Because
point.
when you think of search, it's like, all right, I'm gonna go to Google because they're gonna give me the best information. They're gonna give me the most right answers. Bing has the luxury of nobody expects us to be good at search, or nobody really uses us for search. So we can give them a few wrong answers, and it's not going to be like, oh wow, I'm really disappointed in Bing. It's going to be like, oh no, nice try, Bing.
Yeah.
You did good, but okay, now I'm going to go to Google and find, I guess, some more legitimate answers or more of the right answers. So they have a lot more wiggle room, right? And one thing about chatbots and AI and generative AI, as you said, they don't always give the right answers, right? It's there might be creative, sort of, quote unquote, but they're not always given the right answers to your questions, or they don't always give answers that make sense,
Yeah.
compared to what you asked. But it's an answer nonetheless. So, in Google's opinion in the past, is at least we could do the exact same thing, but if we give a wrong answer, it's going to hurt our reputation worse than it will hurt Bing's reputation.
Mhm.
So, at least in the past, that's why they've been a little bit slow to release their own version of Chat GPT. But it seems like now, they see, okay, hey, people are very interested in it. Like you said, this is reaching NFT levels of interest and excitement. So it's, hey, they have to release something. They have to show that, hey, we have another option to Chat GPT that we've been working on, because if not, it's just going to allow Microsoft to steal some of that market share away. And I don't think they're going to take over, as I said, but I think the longer Google waits, and that they're releasing this now, so they're done waiting, but the longer they wait, the more time they give Microsoft to build up momentum.
Yeah.
And so right now it's okay. Google is releasing their Chat GPT rival. So everyone sees Chat GPT as the main thing, as the generative AI that, that's the brand name. But now that they've released it, we'll start to see, okay, how well can Bard AI catch up to Chat GPT? How much can Google catch up to Microsoft in this, generative AI space? And maybe in a year's time from now, we'll be saying, Apple is releasing their Bard AI rival
Mhm.
as opposed to their Chat GPT rival. So I think this is good timing from Google, but I still think they're going to remain on top.
Yeah, you're probably right there. It's one of those situations where if I'm going to search something, I want an answer as quickly as possible, and I kind of want it to be short and concise, or I'm looking for something in particular and I just want it to give me the right link to it. And I think Google's still going to be fantastic at that. And you're right, Google is the number one by a huge margin. They have a lot to lose if they don't do this next step great and execute it well. It's one of those things though. I'm kind of wondering, does this mean a fundamental shift into what search means? Because that's the thing. If it's traditional search, I can see that, yeah, Google will probably hold a considerable market share in the search space. But what made Google so popular when it rose up in the rankings of search in general was that it made navigating the internet really easy, and it's really good at that. I wonder if this is a fundamental change on how people use the internet. And if that is the case, I can definitely see a world in which, and I don't think this will happen, but I could see a world in which all of a sudden people wholesale switch from something like a Google to a Bing. But I do want to circle back on something where, talking about this kind of does feel like the excitement around NFTs. I wonder, and I don't know if this is just because I'm old and maybe new technology annoys me. I don't think it does, but maybe it does. I just don't notice it yet. But is the excitement around this maybe too high to the point where it feels like it may be overhyped into what people expect, AI based search to do? and machine learning to do for search and stuff like that, and answering all these questions and people using ChatGPT. Is it overhyped, or is it just so novel right now that people are imagining all these amazing things that you're going to be able to do with it now and into the future? But when reality hits, like AR and VR did with something like Horizon Worlds, um, is it going to be one of those situations, or even like NFTs when reality hit of like, oh no, this really isn't as cool as we thought it would be?
Mhm.
Is it possible that we go in that direction with these AI search, or do you think it's much more of a solid base than either AR, VR, or NFTs seemed to be a couple of years ago?
I think it's much more of a solid base than NFTs
Mm,
because like there's something behind this. Not to say there wasn't something behind NFTs,
hmm
but as like some of the numbers that we saw were astronomical. When you look at the crypto punks and you look at the bored apes and all that, like some of the numbers were pretty
Yeah,
ridiculous, considering that you were essentially buying JPEGs. Now, yes, there's a lot more behind it, and when you look at the whole built on blocks, like blockchain is something solid. It is a solid piece of technology that will definitely continue into the future. But when you look at the NFT aspect of it, even when you explained it to people, it was like, yeah, I paid $10,000 for this image. And it's like, you own the image? If someone else uses it, do you get paid? No. Wait, so can I like print off the image? Like, is it stopping me from, copy and pasting this? No, it's not stopping you from that, but I own it. So, didn't really make sense.
yeah,
This is, I mean, this is something more substantial than that. And to your point about changing how people navigate the internet, I definitely think it has the potential for that, especially when you look at, younger generations when it's right now, if they're searching something, maybe their first thought isn't, I'm going to Google it and then I'm going to look at the top few websites. I'm going to read all of them. And then from all of those websites, I'm going to form my opinion. Like you said, they just want an answer. They have a question, they want a concise answer. And if Bing or Google AI can give them that answer, that's fundamentally going to change, you know, them growing up and how they access information.
yeah,
So I definitely think it has the potential to do that. Even with the metaverse, right? As much buzz as there was around the metaverse, especially when you look at, the whole rebranding of Facebook, that was I think that was pretty drastic,
hmm
the rebranding and all the buzz around it. And I think most people, or I think a lot of people for the most part, kind of saw it as like, yeah, the metaverse is cool and everything, but it's not right now. That's a future thing. That's a 10-year thing. And to bet on something 10 years out is a big bet. But AI is something that's right now. I think that's the big difference between AI and in the metaverse, right? People are saying, when the metaverse gets here, when the metaverse is built, when we spend more time on the metaverse. It's something that's very far out, but AI change in search is happening right now.
hmm
And I think that's why it has more potential. And that's why I don't think it's going to fizzle out the way the metaverse did or the way the metaverse and VR has, is because it's something we can experience right now. We don't have to think, okay, yeah, in 10 years when AI based search is, that's how everyone is, getting their information. No, we can look right now with this Bing integration, with Google's Bard integration, right? We can look at examples right now and we can use this product right now.
yeah,
So I think it definitely not gonna not gonna be a bubble the way that NFTs were. And I don't think it's gonna fizzle out the way that VR did because people are experiencing it and using it right now. And to go back to your point of virtual reality and VR headsets is kind of something that you have to experience. So it's hard to see how life changing it can be unless you experience it. These AI bots, these AI chat bots are something that everyone can easily experience,
yeah.
right? It's a lot easier, it's a lot lower of a barrier to entry compared to VR and compared to NFTs. So yeah, I think it's gonna last a lot longer than those other ones, and I think it's going to be an interesting year.
Interesting to see. Well, I'm interested to see how it plays out. I don't know. There's a part of me that's still a little skeptical and wonders if it's going to be like NFTs, just because of how it feels like overnight, you know, some people in the tech space are really interested in, you know, large language models and chat GPT and all this, you know, AI art and stuff like that. And then 3 days later, the entire world, that's all they can talk about. It's on the news, it's on this, it's on that. It feels very similar to crypto and NFTs, how they kind of just exploded, specifically NFTs, because crypto had a long tail. But specifically NFTs, how it just exploded, and we're seeing like all this expensive art. And then when you hear something like Microsoft invests $10 billion into OpenAI, like that number is so astronomically high that it's like, oh, geez, what's going on here? So yeah, I'm really interested to see how this plays out, and I'm kind of interested for us to revisit this topic on the podcast in the future.
Yeah.